Batch Bros Live, the episode 9 recap of Katie Thurston's The Bachelorette. I just got done watching the episode, actually, a day late, I know, but I don't know. Quite frankly, I am an emotional wreck and do not know how I'm going to be able to form any sort of, well thought out opinions on this. But as always, I'm the Han Factor. Glad you guys are here. Let's welcome back my normal co-host, Josh, Tasty Kebab, and I guess Odin wants to say hi to you too. So,
Odin takes precedent.
Yeah, so Josh, why don't you say hi to the people and tell me how you're feeling today?
I mean, it's good to be back, but obviously, yeah, we're all a little emotional right now, and there's no shame in that.
Man, I cannot. Oh god, today was both a long day for a lot of reasons, and then I came and watched this, and oh god, my headspace is just like I'm so, whew. That's all I can say is whew. So, or hit him with I'll hit him with the Gen Z sheesh, you know.
I have to share with you how I watched the episode. So,
sure, I'm listening. I'm all ears.
Last night, I went and got dinner with a friend and hung out for a little while and came back. And it was late, so I'm like, well, I'll watch about half the episode tonight, so I'll watch the second half tomorrow when I get home. And so I watched all the way up through, I guess, what was like the first half or 2/3 of Greg's hometown, and then turned on the TV.
Oh, so you didn't even get to the juicy part.
See the second half. So it's like, holy shit.
Yeah, you wouldn't have turned it off had you gotten that far the first night.
Yeah, Tale of Two Halves.
Oh, really, though? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Josh, shall we just get into it? I don't even know,
Yeah, let's...
I mean, let's go to the beginning. I mean, the opening of the intro to the episode this time was very, this is going to be dramatic, get ready. They just had those, little cutscenes that they show, and it's like, this is the Bachelorette. And then, like you kind of said, the first half of the actual episode was more or less very just kind of floating along until it hits a cliff and it just dives off. But yeah, so go ahead.
And you get these teasers too all season, and it keeps going yeah, I've seen it. I need to actually have context to know what's going on, because it's very easy to just clip something up and make it look completely different from what it is.
Yeah.
But I would have to say this episode did not let down from what the teasers were.
Yeah, and you never know.
It was every bit as dramatic as they made it seem.
You never know from a chronicity standpoint, not chronicity, but timeline, when some of these things are even happening. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's you're never gonna know exactly. It's okay, when does this event actually take place, and is it really that dramatic, or is it just kind of pieced together to make it seem that way? But yeah, I mean, they were like, hey, this is not gonna be great. And
yeah,
they're like, and it wasn't. But yeah, so it opens up like every other episode, talking about starting hometowns, and they get into the hometowns. And first up, I really, up until it's Blake, right? So Blake gets the first hometown.
Well, I want to kind of talk before that even a little bit.
Okay.
So just with the fallout from our last episode is that what we did get before the men tell all was that Michael left.
Yes.
And so I was kind of wondering, well, okay, is Katie gonna have this discussion with the other guys
that Mike left
about it? Yeah.
Oh no, they completely ignore it.
Yeah. So I'm saying that's what I was thinking coming into it. So, and yeah, Katie just doesn't say anything at all, and I was kind of wondering what your thoughts were. I had a few of my own thoughts on it.
There may have been.
She should have told them, or
I think there probably was some sort of discussion there, where she either brought it up or the producers came by and said, "Hey guys, just by the way, Michael A is not here anymore. Just an FYI." So I'm sure that they were upset, and who knows, he may have said bye to everybody and it wasn't like a memorable clip, you know. I don't think he's the one that he doesn't seem like the type to have just left people that he would have called his friends and just abandoned them.
I agree with that. And also like the way we saw Greg and Blake talking later in the episode too. Like I'd expect that they would be running into each other and maybe notice if somebody just wasn't there anymore.
Okay.
But at the same time, you know, that also like changes the landscape of how like these last few episodes are always going to go, because there's always a little bit more flexibility early. But basically Hometowns is always 4 into 3 for Fantasy Suite, and then you get the proposal between the final 2. So like basically at this point they would, knowing that Michael's gone, they would know that they're secure to go on to the next round, basically, unless there's been a change in the rules or something.
Well, yeah, and it looks like we already actually have a caller.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. So
first caller.
Yeah,
exciting.
First caller. God Samet. I'm gonna bring you in now. So let's see. All right, God Samet, are you there? Sam, go ahead and talk.
This is going swimmingly.
This is exactly how I anticipated him wanting to call in would go. All right, Sam, you're live on the call. All right. Well, we'll give him an opportunity to call in later. At this point, I'm going to move him back over to the other lobby. If you have an opinion like this,
he's
share.
Speechless.
He's probably speechless, yeah.
Yeah, from the episode, he's so stunned. Doesn't know what to say.
I think that last week's episode, FYI, there was like a casting call for that position for that girl to be like, we're looking for somebody to make out with Connor, essentially. So it was all fake.
Yeah, and follow up.
Yeah, it was all fake and follow up. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what kind of the fallout from Michael A leaving was. They really didn't touch on it. I was really kind of not invested in that. I was just kind of interested to see what these hometowns bring. So, yeah, Blake was up first.
Yeah,
though.
definitely. Like that's the focus of the episode. I wonder if like, yeah, how they approach it, because you know it's a different kind of mindset, I guess, maybe that you'd have going into this, knowing that you're already safe. Maybe somebody is like trying to make a different kind of move, or like they feel desperate, or like they're nervous and they do something because of it, as opposed to maybe being a little more relaxed and I don't know, natural.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's like you got to think it's like, oh god, these guys are dropping like flies and I'm still here. You know, that's part of it too.
Yeah, it definitely gives you that like sense of relief. Although, I mean, maybe if you're seeing, like, okay, guys are dropping like flies and I'm still here, my head's sitting on the chopping block, it could also give you kind of that sense of impending doom.
Maybe, but I don't know that you should have that mentality either, right? Like, you should probably
and I mean, you should definitely be feeling confident in your
relationship. Yeah.
At this point.
I would hope so. It's like, if you don't feel confident in the relationship, then there's only a couple people left. Yeah, I mean, that's not a very good sign now, is it?
No.
But yeah, I mean, Blake's hometown. Shall we get into it?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so yeah, Blake's hometown. I'll give you kind of the highlights, and we'll kind of talk about it as we go. So before we get to Blake's family, they get to have like a nice little date. First up, you know, the taste of Canada. So they do a shot of maple syrup. Are you in or out, Josh? Are you? How do you feel about maple syrup?
You know, I'm a big maple syrup fan, but miss me with that shot of maple.
Yeah, I don't know. It was weird. I don't know that I'd be doing a shot of maple syrup. I thought maybe it was like maple syrup bourbon. I noticed this too, but as soon as they did their shot together, Blake's pouring himself another one. Oh no, I didn't catch that.
I was like, okay, I think one's enough, like, for the novelty of it, but 2, you know,
Well, I thought
I guess live your best life. Whatever.
maybe if it's like maple syrup bourbon or something like that, that's fun. But yeah, I think it
Oh
was
yeah,
just
I
straight
mean, I've
maple
done
syrup.
yeah maple whiskey. That's
Mhm.
fine. But yeah, let's not just drink the straight maple syrup.
No, yeah, so that was cheeky and enjoyable to watch, but I was like, oh, that's kind of gross, really. I don't know about
I could
that.
definitely tell Katie was like, yeah, I did that, but I don't want to do another. Thank you.
That was good to
He,
do once and never again.
they had the little bit too where Blake's talking about how he has like maple syrup everywhere and keeps some in his
Bedside
nightstand.
nightstand, yeah.
Yeah, and Katie asks him if he's ever
I
used
wonder
it
if
in
that's
bed.
true.
It's like, ladies and gentlemen, like I'm not the medical professional here, but please do not use maple syrup. Like that is going to get you a yeast infection. Not good for anybody.
uh, I will not give my professional opinion on that. However, yeah, and then after that little fun scene, they do kind of truth or dare darts, which I really enjoyed. That is something that I would like to set up, and like if I am fortunate enough to go on a date with a woman anytime in the near future, would like to do. Like that seemed like a really like fun and cute idea, don't you think? Or
Yeah,
no?
no, I like that too. That was that was something I would want to do with somebody. The only thing I don't like about it is that, like I've written all of them. I
Mhm.
just want them to be like random things
Yeah.
that like would apply to both of us. So it's not like, oh yeah, I'm trying to like push these things onto you here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you going to move to Canada? Ooh.
Oh yeah, no, I know. And then the answer he got was maybe. It's like I'll take that as a no, like
Shell,
I took
will
that
I
as
be
a hard
moving to
pass.
Canada?
But no, yeah. So like, very smooth when Blake was like, "Hey, it was like, Truth, what are your two favorite parts of my body or your body, like whatever?" And he was like, "Well, let me show you." And I was just clapping away. I was like, Blake, that was so smooth. Like, I don't even know what to say. I don't know if you had that like set up in your mind already, but that was I was impressed. As someone that has done like stupid, cheesy, embarrassing stuff like that before, all about it, right?
I think he was definitely hoping that he was going to get that one, but at the same time, if she hits that and is sticking her hands on him, really anywhere, I'm sure he's happy with that.
He was a man that came in with a plan, I think there, and he got it done. Yeah, and then so that was fun, and then they ride the moose, which is just a mechanical bull with antlers, which is a little bit kind of creepy. like it was fun, but it's like they fall off, they make out on the inflatable moose stand thing. There was a lot of making out this episode on inflatables, right? Like
there was
more than what I had anticipated, so surprising nonetheless. And then they throw on some hockey jerseys and they hit the pucks around for a little bit before she meets his family, and that's kind of the fun little date. And overall, I think that's a good date. Like that seemed fun,
Yeah. No,
Like,
I think it was decently well put together.
Mhm.
So last season with Matt, he had his hometowns with the girls
mhm.
that were on then, and one of them was also Canadian. I forget her name at the moment, but she
Serena.
she did like a similar kind of setup. They did a lot more like food stuff, I guess,
Mhm.
with the Canadian side of things.
Mhm.
So like it was definitely still different, but it felt the same enough. I know that they're still very limited in what they can actually do.
Mhm.
So it just, looking forward to a time when they're actually able to do like real hometowns again.
Yeah,
'Cause
I would like to see like what
The
these people's
formula's a
actually
little
plays.
stale.
Yeah, no, I agree. Where it's like, oh, we're gonna bring your hometown to Arizona, or New Mexico. I think they're in New Mexico, but
Yeah.
regardless, I think that it's fun and it's cute, but it's kind of like, well, I would rather see like what type of environment, like I don't know how much of a say they get in kind of like what they choose to show people, but I would like to. It's like, how do I word this? I want them to show a little piece of home to whoever the lead is, and that's hard to do in somewhere that's not your home. Period. So I don't know, but yeah. Anyway,
he made the best of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they have a cutaway before they meet Blake's family of Greg kind of leaning by poolside over the gate, moping about how he is sad that he saw them having such a good time. So.
And that was definitely like the producers being like, "Hey,
Greg, why don't you go outside and
why don't you go take a walk?"
That's what I thought too, and it's a little foreshadowing for the rest of the episode with what is about to happen. But Greg is really kind of there. Sounds like at that scene, there's a bit of self-doubt starting to creep in. Like you can see that he's not really the same.
Yeah, he's definitely losing a little bit of the confidence.
Yeah.
At this point,
So,
but I mean, like when you're down this far in, you know that like nobody's just there. So it's a little easier to like kind of compare yourself to others. And
so
I don't know how long it's actually been since they've hung out at this point too.
That's fair. We don't know exactly how long we're running stale at this point. So we meet Blake's parents next, and what did you, or not parents, excuse me, family, his mom and his sister. And I think his brother was the other guy. He didn't really talk much from what I can remember.
No, he didn't.
Yeah. So
there wasn't too much that really stood out to me, but there was one thing that I think I figured something out with Blake, where I think I've realized a little bit why I don't care for him like as a contestant anyway. Like he's a fine person, but his sister was talking to him and being like, "Oh, well, you went on to the Bachelorette before and you're like immediately in love with Claire. And then like she left, did her own thing, whatever. And then Tayshia came on and now you're in love with Tayshia and you're all about her. And now here you are with Katie and you think she's the one." And I think maybe it's just like confirmation bias, but I kind of feel like, to me, Blake's a bit of a lover boy. I feel like he's gonna throw himself all into whoever is currently around him, regardless, and not really be reading for the same kind of connection. Not to say that he and Katie don't have a connection, but I think that he's just immediately gonna go head over heels, no matter who that attention's coming.
You don't find that relatable? Do you hate him because he is like you? Because that's exactly how I felt about. No. Serious question. Like, that's how I felt about it. I'm really close to my mic right now. Like, when I first start dating new girls, I'm very single right now. I'm sure that most of the people that watch this podcast are people we know, and they are aware of that. But anyway, I tend to get emotionally invested faster than I should. And I know you, Josh, and I know that is exactly how you are too. Do you disagree?
No. I can't deny that. And I'm not saying this in like a judgmental way of Blake. I think that's just how he is. And I don't know that he has the same kind of self-awareness with it that maybe we do. Because like I know, when I start talking to a girl, I am getting very invested, but at the same time, I keep telling myself, nope, take a step back, calm it down. Like you're doing too much. So like, I know, yes, if I just let my inhibitions run wild, I'm going to immediately just like fall into everything.
Sure.
But I have the awareness to prevent myself from doing that. Take some steps back.
All right. It looks like God Samet is trying to call in again, so I'm gonna drag him back and see if we get any sort of response. Let's see what. God, Sam, at your live. Are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Welcome, Sam, to
Welcome
the
to the
pod. What on earth would you like to talk to us about in regards to episode 9 of The Bachelorette?
Okay, can we please talk about how people's families that are like, oh, like, he's not this way at all around other people. That is not a compliment. That is a red flag.
Yeah. Okay. So Sam's point, I think you're referring to like especially Justin with his friends. Both of his friends repeatedly were like, "We've never really seen him like this before. Like this seems like very different than the normal Justin."
He doesn't like to open up. He's not comfortable with PDA or anything.
Yeah. Did you find that as a red flag at all, Josh?
You know, I don't know that I viewed it entirely as a red flag as much as just like a product of the environment.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's very much you are only really talking to this one person. Mm-hmm. So I think for one, that's going to send things like, well, and with the way the show works, it's going to send things into a much faster like rate of development.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe, yeah, Justin isn't expressing himself or like being physical in any way with girls around his friends and family normally, but maybe he's only like seeing these girls for like a couple weeks, as opposed to like he's been on this show for maybe a couple months now and also supposed to be getting engaged soon, theoretically.
Yeah.
So it's hard to gauge that exactly. Obviously, yeah, if someone is like acting like an entirely different person around you compared to everyone else in their life, I would agree that is a cause for concern.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard to really judge it in this like microscope to me.
Mm-hmm. Now, Sam, did you feel like there was overlap with Blake as well, where his family didn't feel like he was being himself? Did he leave? He left.
We lost the caller.
Chat. Okay, well, I think we answered his question. If he has more questions, he's welcome to drop a chat in there, and we can drag him back. But yeah, Blake's family, they seem very nice. I've got a hot take for you, Josh, though. Do you think that Katie looks like Blake's mom?
Oh, man.
I wish I had a picture up here right now. I think they look similar.
That a little bit. Yeah.
Right.
I would kind of venture to guess that Blake's a bit of a mama's boy. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm going to be self-aware here. I'm also kind of a mama's boy too, not to like Michael P. extent by any means.
I would hope not.
I've always had a very good relationship with my mother. We talk a lot. So, I mean, maybe just coincidence. I don't think either Claire or Tayshia they don't look anything like Katie. So less like his mom too.
Mm-hmm.
So I really think it's more just by coincidence than anything there.
Yeah.
Because he was falling for these other girls just fine too.
Yeah, my highlights from the Blake's family was when his mom said to man the fuck up and tell her you love her. I was like, I mean that seems like a bit much, but like that was kind of the sentiment. It's like pretty much his entire family was like, you should tell her that you love her if you feel that way, and then he doesn't do it. He has his opportunity. And he just doesn't shoot the shot, right? Mr. Confident, who has done nothing but shoot shots with the last 3 Bachelorettes, mind you. He doesn't shoot when he has the real opportunity to do it. And that was kind of my take on it. And I don't know, and I really kind of got the impression that maybe he isn't in love with her right now. And that's why he can't say it. Blake seems like a very honest person, and I think he was honest with himself and said, hey, I don't think I can say this to somebody right now because I just don't know that I truly feel it.
Yeah, and I think he's been very careful in the way he's talked about his feelings for Katie up until this point,
Mm-hmm.
where he keeps saying, I really think I'm going to get to the point where I do love you,
Yep.
not like, oh my God, I'm falling in love with you.
Yep.
I'm in love with you. It's always like, yeah, like I think I'm gonna get there. He's come in a bit later, so he's a little behind the track of everybody else at this point. But I mean, he's also gotten to spend so much quality time with her too, where he's still better than most of the like other front runners prior to this were. So.
Yeah, and I mean, you know how I feel about the statement, I'm beginning to fall in love with you. I mean, it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm beginning to fall in love with a ham and cheese sandwich, to be honest. So I don't really know what your point is. Like, that really seems like a much more surface level thing to say to somebody than what I think people give it credit on the show. Like,
I think that's
I don't think
that,
it, like, I'm beginning to fall in love with, like a Three Musketeers chocolate bar. Like, I don't know.
That's fine to say at
this
the
beer,
but like when you're getting to this stage, you got to put up or shut up.
Mm-hmm. I got Ode, Mr. Ode. There you go. All right, we're gonna hold this cat like the giant baby that he is right now and see if he wants to stay
Simba.
here. I know. He'll just kind of sit in my arms and hang out, but yeah. So and that's kind of Blake's family hometown, right? So he doesn't really,
he doesn't follow anything. He doesn't follow through on anything, and I think that is like him genuinely just not being ready to say that to Katie.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. Like I think after that part of the episode, I ended up thinking that, hey, maybe I like Blake more as a character and more as a person than I did before. He just, I think he's been honest and he's been like pretty good for the show, and I don't know. He's kind of winning me over, I'll put you up here.
I think he's fine. Just, I feel like it's a lot of, I think there's a lot of boyish, like, young puppy love going on there more so than anything.
I kind of have, I'll stand my ground where it's like, it feels like they have more of a physical attraction than anything else,
Yeah.
I think when you call somebody dangerous, it's like, hey, I want to screw your brains out more than it is like, hey, I think I'm gonna make you my husband. So yeah, and I think he's maybe coming to realize that and what we've seen here, because I agree. I think he's a very genuine person too, and if he's not comfortable like actually telling Katie he's in love with her, he's probably not actually feeling that way. Yep. I think that's the case. Sorry, I've got this very needy cat at the moment. But yeah, and so that kind of concludes Blake, and then up next is Justin, and also with Justin, it ends up being possibly the most boring hometown I think I've ever seen, in my opinion. Certainly there were bad ones in the past, but like, the most in-depth conversation I saw them have was when they were riding the horse carriage and they agreed that they're both blue cheese people. And that doesn't seem like enough to marry somebody.
Maybe not. Maybe you should find a few other things that you click on too.
Yeah, I don't know. So, it starts out and he's like, we should take pictures in front of the Baltimore sign, and that's fun. I like Polaroid cameras and everything like that. I gotta show this off right here. Look at this cat. So, and he likes his head scratches. But anyway, they take pictures in front of the Baltimore sign, and that's cute and it's playful. And then they get in a horse-drawn carriage, and that's okay. But I didn't really see any. And then after that, they kill crabs, or they're already dead crabs, and they eat them. But there was not a conversation, at least shown on the television, to indicate that they have any sort of real emotional connection or really have talked about anything other than surface level stuff. to me at least, right? Like,
Right. I was, yeah, honestly, like, I don't remember too much from this date. It was late at night, so I wasn't taking notes. So
mhm,
there wasn't anything that I remembered at the time. And then when I jotted stuff down this night that I knew I wanted to talk about before I
mhm.
watched the second half, I couldn't really think about anything from the date. Like, yeah, you know, Justin's kind of been a bit of a mystery to me this season because, like, we just haven't gotten that much of his character.
Mhm.
Like, he's just kind of there, and it doesn't seem like he's had any like super serious conversations with Katie. Kind of just like, yeah, we have fun a bit, like, and they're not even doing anything that exciting when they're having fun. Really, it's just okay. They enjoy each other's company, I guess. Which, I mean, that's good that you like to be around each other, but yeah, again, not necessarily the formula for like a successful marriage.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel similar. And it was a very uneventful date leading up to when his friends met Katie, and it
Which I
remained
wanted to comment on
uneventful.
that too,
Yeah, go ahead.
because I was just, they showed him having the conversation with his parents at the very beginning of
Yep.
this, and they're kind of just like, we don't. They basically seem to me like they're saying we don't really approve of like this process and stuff, and like, how can you get? We're not going to be there. How can you say that you're going to get married if she hasn't even like met us yet?
Yeah, I don't
And
know.
I'm like, oh, well, you're kind of being a little bit like obstinate here, preventing it from actually like having a chance, because I'm sure he does want them to be there too, and
Yeah.
they're just like, oh well, no, but also because we're saying no, that should be like a reason for you not to do it.
Well, they didn't really
So it felt shitty to me.
they
I
didn't
felt
really
bad for him there.
I think that my question is why is the why there. It's like, why were his parents not there? Did they not want to go? Could they not travel due to the way that the world currently is? I have like it changes my perspective on the situation pending why they weren't there. And so they kind of say, we'll support you with whatever you do. But I agree with you that, at least from the phone call that we got to hear, it didn't seem super sincere. It seemed like, yeah, we'll support you, but we really don't want you doing it. Please don't. Like, that that doesn't seem like hey, we're all in. Definitely they're skeptical. You can say that with certainty. They are very
Yeah,
skeptical
skeptical
of
is
this
like best case
process.
scenario
Yeah, and
for them.
I think so too. It's we don't necessarily trust this process the same way that you do, and we don't want to see you so invested in something that uh, seems very unlikely or improbable to work out. And that's kind of my impression of that. So, and once again, that was the beginning. That was the lead in to Justin's date. And that was the most interesting part. Because his friends just kind of perseverate on that whole, wow, he seems so happy. He doesn't really seem like the Justin that we know. He's making eye contact. He's showing PDA. And I'm like, well, damn, how much did he not like these girls in the past if he, like, won't look them in the eye or touch them? like, like, I get that that's, like, they made it sound like that was so outlandish of a thing. Like, hey,
Yeah, and
we
so like part of me wonders too how interested is he really in Katie versus just like Katie's what's sitting right in front of him, maybe like not exactly Stockholm syndrome, but like, okay, you're the only woman I can talk to, so I'm just gonna go all in while it's here. Like, if he maybe has issues in the past, we didn't get enough details to really like definitively say anything here.
mm-hmm.
But if he has issues like keeping interest in one girl, who's to say that he won't like lose interest a bit in Katie when he's actually able to talk to other women?
You
Like,
think he's a
going
player?
out and doing stuff.
I didn't get the
That
whole
was
player vibe. At
that was
least
that
not
was a
me.
bit of the impression that I was getting from his friends.
Mhm.
Like,
that
I
did
don't
not
know
cross
that
my brain.
he's been acting exactly like that throughout the course of the season, but I think he's also a more like there's a lot of ways to be a player, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
not every player has to be the cocky guy going around like
no, sure. Justin
showing
seems
off.
like somebody that I wouldn't want to have to compete with to win women's attention, for a couple of reasons, and one of those is that he's going to bring these beautiful paintings in, and I'm just going to be like, well, I got out of bed today. I don't know what to tell you. He wins. Sorry about your luck. But yeah, I can see that Justin seems like a guy that would garner a lot of attention from women, especially ones that he's interested in. You know, he's very good looking. He's artistic. He seems very kind.
Well, and it could possibly be too that like he's attracted the attention of a lot of like beautiful women that don't have a personality too, and so he's just
I think we're making a few jumps there too. Like, that's difficult to ascertain.
We are.
So.
There's a lot of speculation here, but again, we've hardly seen anything from him.
That's true.
We don't know that much about his personality.
Are we speculating because we really don't know Justin that well? There's three guys left, and one of them's Justin, right?
It's weird that he's at the end here, and we still like don't really know that much about him, who he is, how we act.
And part of me is
we know that he is artistic.
Like, does she just want to like have a physical relationship with him before she sends him home? Like, is that possible, or is that just me making another speculation?
No, I mean it's a possibility. Katie was on a podcast like a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
She was talking about, I think, Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
And she's basically like, yeah, he's the kind of guy that, I want to hook up with, but I don't want anything to do with him, like, relationship-wise. I wouldn't date him.
Okay, sure.
So
physical attraction.
Katie definitely at least is capable of feeling that way, at the very least.
Okay.
Who knows?
I mean, it really is difficult to ascertain with him because we've seen so little of him, and I really don't have a very good, like, he seems like somebody that I would be friends with, but I couldn't really tell you why, right? Like,
he's chill. He seems like
I don't really know much about him.
Fine to hang out with.
So, yeah, but and his friends don't really add much kind of to the table. They seem very nice, and they seem to think that he really enjoys Katie, but I don't know that really develops their relationship further. The conversations they had with his friends. So, I think his date is by far kind of like he's running out of time, and I think time's pretty much gone at this point. So,
yeah, he mentioned how he's like, I guess maybe he is rationalizing having his friends on, being like, yeah, they know a different side of me from my parents, so they'll be able to analyze this in a different way. But I don't know that the analysis really brought too much that was useful. I don't know that they were really willing to challenge him too much on anything other than saying, like, well, why haven't you told her you love her then?
Yeah, but a lot of the same. I mean,
also, like,
kind of the theme.
Katie's pretty cool, so I mean, I think that she just kind of went over a couple of like bros out with her natural charm. Like,
if one of my friends
brought me to a girl like that, I'd be super stoked for you.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way, where it's like, if that was somebody that a friend of mine brought and was like, hey, I want you to meet my girlfriend, and that's who that was, and just kind of seeing her personality and how she's charismatic. Like, I think that's probably a very good trait that Katie has, is that she has shown that she has a lot of charisma and can win a lot of people
definitely.
over. And so
I'm
I
gonna
think that
say
goes a
that,
long
I'm
way.
just gonna kind of trust the rest of you.
Oh yeah,
So
I
I,
feel
I
the
think
same.
that's kind of where they were.
But yeah, and I don't know that I have much else to add, because the rest of the episode is the Greg show, right? Like that's
Yep.
it's like, and let's just get to it, Josh. So
Because I mean, to kind of set the stage here,
mhm.
that those first two hometowns took like the first
It was
30
quick.
to 40
It was
minutes of
very
the
quick.
episode.
Yeah, I was like, oh god, like it's this is over. Like this is gonna be a
Like,
fast
what's happening
episode.
on the back end? Is there a lot of
Drama.
like build up?
Yes.
Yeah.
yes. Uh, yeah. No. So Greg comes on. He has his one-on-one date with her before she meets his family, and they go on a tandem bike, and then they eat something called pork rolls. Now, Greg is from New Jersey, and I will say, I'm sorry if anybody from New Jersey watches this. That is like one of my least favorite places in the entire world. So Greg seems great because he has a very low bar for me to clear in my mind, right? Like when I think about New Jersey, I don't have a whole lot of great opinions. So the fact that Greg seems like nice, well-rounded guy, cares for Katie, he's already a winner in my book. And so
He's not off of Jersey Shore.
no, but they have pork rolls, and pork rolls seem pretty lit. But I don't really know what they are, but they seem to enjoy them. And then they go surfing. I don't know if surfing is like actually a thing on the coast of New Jersey. Do they have waves? I assume that it's mostly just garbage floating in the ocean. So I don't know that it's really a quote-unquote surfing destination. But it's a giant inflatable surfboard they're on, and they fall off, and more making out on inflatables. That is all that I'm seeing. Yeah. And, I think there's something very special that happens during their date, and it's the basketball thing, right? So Greg tells Katie that his kind of escape that he hasn't really done a whole lot since he lost his father was basketball. And he wants to play basketball with Katie. And I thought that was a very nice thing to share. And they play horse, but they call it kiss. And we all learned that Katie is not much of a baller, right? Katie doesn't have a whole lot of skills on the basketball court. But it was a nice moment, right? Like, I'm enjoying their date. Are you?
Yeah, it seemed nice. Again, like still very limited in what you can actually do, but kind of from the beginning, Greg's had like I think probably the easiest relationship with Katie, where he doesn't need to do anything like crazy or wild. They can just have the very chill like date, and you can tell they're both really into it.
Yeah, and I think you're totally right, where every moment I see with Katie and Greg, it seems easy. And then of course after they get done playing basketball, we get the scene where they're making out under more fake rain, which I don't really understand why it needed to happen again. But
to me, like my impression there was that Greg was like, that was really fun. I want to like
relive the moment.
I kind of want to like prank her / do this like cheesy romantic thing.
Yeah.
And I thought it was cute. Like if he came up with that, good on him.
I thought it was kind of bizarre, but yeah, sure. I see your perspective. I don't know that I agree with it.
I'm into it.
Okay.
Ladies.
M'lady.
Oh, gee. Don't put that on me.
But yeah, I watched that. I watched the one-on-one with Katie, and the only thing I wrote down was I love Greg and Katie. Because when and it's nothing that they do, it's just when you listen to the cuts of him talk about how he feels about her, it just seems so sincere and caring that it like the cold dead heart inside my chest warms up a couple degrees Celsius. And I feel so good about watching them
on the microwave.
Yeah, I feel so good about watching the two of them interact. And I don't know. I mean, Josh, do you feel similar? Just kind of watching that one-on-one date and everything about Greg and Katie, I just feel very positive about that.
Yeah, I think he's super duper into her, and like she seems most comfortable and happy and natural around him from everything I've seen really like all season. And you know, she says this a little bit later. We can talk about it more when we get there, but she said he's been number one all season,
Which
for whatever that's worth.
Which he kind of doesn't really take exception to, but or I think you understand what I'm trying to say. But yeah, the rest of the episode is hard for me to watch, really. I don't know what it was. Like I said earlier, I don't know if I've just had kind of a rough go at it the last couple days, and this just kind of broke whatever emotional stability I had left watching the rest of this episode. But that was very difficult to watch. Now, we'll get to, so Greg's family's up next, and kind of the first thing is, you know, his mom was like, hey, your sisters couldn't be here, but they gave you a message. And Greg really loves his family. And that is very touching and warm to see. You know, he's got tears running down his cheeks, thinking about his sisters, and the theme of kind of Katie meeting Greg's family is, this is the happiest we've ever seen him, right? We don't know that we've seen Greg for the last, I don't know how long it's been since he lost his father, but it seemed to kind of set him back, and he is kind of like becoming more of himself again, is what his family seems to think. At least that's my impression from watching the show.
It seemed like it's been like a very big healing process for him, and I don't know how much he would have like reacted like that otherwise, but I feel like that was really just showing not just how much he loves his family, like you said, but that he's really there for Katie and is comfortable to entirely just let everything go.
Yeah, and I just feel similar to you in that facet too, where he just seems to really, really be in love with Katie and is trying to seize that moment after she meets his family. I think he can tell that his family also just really likes her, and so it is just like, he's like, yeah, you know, you hear him say on multiple occasions, she's the one.
Yeah, and I definitely have. I think he's felt like that way for a while now too, where he's like, okay, here, just ride this out. We're gonna get through it. But yeah, to kind of set up their conversation later, after talking to his family, he really decides that he wants to let her in entirely on all of his emotions, and he's looking for that same kind of genuine response from her.
Yeah, and I don't know that I have a well thought out opinion about kind of the rest of the episode, because it's so like, I looked at some of the memes briefly after the episode before we started this, because I had literally finished the episode not even 30 minutes prior to getting on and talking to you on this podcast. But I can see everyone's perspective on kind of, it's like, it's kind of like, what team are you, right? Like,
but, yeah. So
who do
before
you
you
side with on this?
About what you've seen, I haven't looked at any of the memes yet. I did a bad job this time.
That's
didn't
okay.
browse through anything, but in my head, I was expecting a lot of people to be shitting on Greg here for the way everything turns out. And
well,
yeah, I'm curious what you saw.
Oh my god. So yeah, so like, just before I kind of touch into that is like, Greg will be here next week is something Katie says. And in my head, I was like, oh, that was a nice thing to, I mean, like, maybe that's a nice thing to tell his mom. Like, I don't know. She's like, well, I don't really give a fuck if he's here next week. I want him to be the one that you're in love with.
Right.
But yeah, it's also like, and then the back part of my brain was like, well, we all know Justin's not going to be, so that was a pretty easy thing for her to.
Well, but hold on. So Michael's gone, so really everybody's back next week.
Maybe. I don't know that they would do it that way.
Unless they changed up the format, but like they could have accelerated things for sure.
I figured they would have probably accelerated it.
In the past, where people have like left in this situation, they're just kind of like, yeah, as you can see, when they find out at the rose ceremony, so and so's not here, so I'm giving you all a rose. And then they kind of just go on. And
maybe that's what they were setting up for with Michael A. And maybe to your point earlier in this podcast is that they may not have kind of let the rest of the guys know because everybody was going to kind of advance to the next level and give her more time with the three of them, unless she was certain of letting somebody go, i.e. Justin. But we love you, Justin, but we just don't think you're winning here.
You've got fantasy suites next too. Yeah. So how much of it's well, maybe stick around another week.
Yep. So
my last chance as a single woman.
And so kind of what sets the rest of this episode off is a conversation that Greg has with Katie after she's done meeting his family, and he, to me, seems to lay it kind of all out on the table and say, hey, I love you. He hits you with the ILY. And he doesn't feel like he gets that affirmation from her during that conversation.
And that was one of the things that I had to like write down immediately. It was just like, Katie's kind of just like sitting here and it feels really awkward. Like he's pouring his heart out and she's like giving little bits of like default answer to him is what it felt like to me.
And I don't know that I disagree with you. That part of the episode when he's doing that, one of the you know how Matt James would always say thank you for sharing that with me? Yeah, it almost seemed like that was the response she gave him. And I don't know that that's what she wanted to tell him or not, but it did not feel... If I was Greg and I just poured my heart out to somebody like that and that was the response I got, I would be hurt.
Yeah,
certainly.
Absolutely. And I that's 100% where he's coming from, where he feels like he just put himself completely out there to her, and then she kind of just stood there and watched. I was like, okay, that's great. And she acknowledges this later, because I had the thought as it was kind of happening too, and she was giving some of her responses, like she's like, oh yeah, I told all of your family that I don't want to tell you I love you until after like there's only one person left.
Man, and I understand that she's like setting clear expectations there, but I mean, I just
don't think she had expressed that to Greg or probably any of the other guys yet either. So they're all sitting here waffling on like, oh well, do I tell her I love her and then just have to hope I hear it back, right?
That's true. I don't know that she like, had that conversation with them.
I could tell you, but I'm not going to get anything back anyway, is what you're saying. So maybe Greg approaches this differently, or has like different expectations going in if he knows that Katie's like just firm in her principle of not saying this until the end.
I think you're probably right, Josh, is that I don't know for certain, but I don't think she had that conversation with any of them prior to that either. It's not like...
I know we haven't seen her say it directly to anybody, even though she's mentioned it several times at this point.
I think you're right. The more that I think about it and the more that you say it, it's like that's a clear expectation she has for herself, but I don't know that Greg, Justin, and Blake know that's the case, right? Like unless unless one of their moms said it to them.
Screwed up from a lack of communication.
Yeah, and wow. I mean, all I can say is that Blake and Greg next have this conversation where Greg tells Blake pretty much, I'm not holding it together. This is not going well for me. I don't know how you're doing this. And he and Katie have what I can then describe as a breakup conveation, right? Like,
well, I kind of had one more thing
go
to
ahead. Yeah.
say about the
I don't want to
nighttime
rush this. It's just
conversation.
hard to. It really is hard for me to wrap my mind around all this stuff.
So I don't know where it's come from, but I've definitely kind of felt like I've seen it develop as the weeks have gone by. I think Katie is trying to play like this situation in a perfect manner, like how she's supposed to be as the Bachelorette, as like kind of the producers want her to. Like she's not going to stir anything up. And so
she's too much of a yes man.
I kind of think that's what's going on, and I have a little bit of the tongue tied, a little bit of a theory behind it that
All right, here comes the conspiracy, ladies and gentlemen.
a lot of speculation, a bit of a conspiracy theory. So when Katie was on The Bachelor, a lot of people were like, everybody was upset when she got kicked off, or a lot of people anyway, because it was either you loved Katie or you hated her, but it was like a 70-30 split for love to hate.
Sure.
From what my impression was. And so there were rumors that she was being named the Bachelorette. And then there was kind of like some backlash to it, to be like, oh well, here's another white Bachelorette. We can't even do two black Bachelorettes or other person of color back to back. It's got to go back to white, right? So like instead of the rumors after that were like, okay, well actually it turns out it's not going to be Katie anymore. Like something happened, they're not moving forward. And then, you know, it gets to the finale, the women tell all, and they make the split or the joint I guess announcement for Michelle and Katie to be the next Bachelorettes. So I almost wonder if like they were gonna cut her and let her go, and she was like, really, how can I make this work? Let's figure something out. And like she feels like it was a favor for her to get back onto the show, and so she's kind of like, yeah, you know, I'm gonna be a good team player here, like gonna get through the show, it's gonna go like back to the formula more so, and we'll be good.
I think more or less that like Michelle was always the choice, but when Michelle said, hey, I want some time, they were like, well, we gotta fill this slot with somebody, and Katie was the next obvious go-to. So Katie was fortunate in a sense, because it's like if Michelle was like, I'm all in, I'm doing the next season, I don't think there's a role for Katie either. Yeah, I think Katie ends up on Paradise with the rest of the group. But yeah, I mean, I you know, Katie does seem like a little bit of a yes man, and I'm not going to speculate to why that is.
It's just bizarre because the personality we've seen from her
is she's
in
the
other
wild card.
She's
the one
like
that wants
that.
to push. Yeah, she pushes the boundaries of what's socially acceptable.
Yeah, like
and,
she's gonna stick to her principle and her ideals, basically. Like regardless of how other people feel, she's gonna defend the people that she wants to defend and speak out against somebody when she feels it's called for.
Yeah, but
so.
Oh God, yeah, I know it's hard to tell.
It seems a bit out of character, but I've been seeing it like develop in her for the past few weeks. I feel like,
you know, and there was, I think, there's something she says later, and I don't want to skip ahead here. So, but she does say, it's like Michael A. left and Greg left. Spoiler alert, everybody. And now I don't know what to do. And to me, that's kind of reverbs what I thought last week, where it seemed like the only people she actually had feelings for were Michael A. and Greg. Like true feelings. Like the only people she could have saw herself ending, and part of me is like, well, maybe she's thinking, hey, Michael A. left, at least that removes this decision for me in my mind because I love them both.
Right.
And maybe that's why she didn't fight for him as much, but then after Greg left, it's like, well, now what do I do? Like, the two men that I could see myself actually falling in love with and ending this whole process with are now gone. But yeah, I mean, Josh, let's get into the conversation that Greg and Katie have, where it's ends in a breakup essentially, and Greg's point is kind of going back to when the end of the family meet, where I did not feel affirmed, at least this is my impression. He did not feel affirmed by her when he poured his heart out to her. And from talking to you, it sounds like you feel the same way, where you did not feel like Katie kind of reaffirmed that.
Greg was being very emotional and real, and he brings this up, how it's like, it's not about the rose. I don't care about that. I want to know that you feel the same, that you want me, not just that, okay, yes, on to the next round, congratulations. Like,
yeah, fuck the rose.
He wants her to be real, even if she doesn't exactly say the words "I love you" to him, which I think she got hung up on.
Yeah,
where she's just like,
know.
oh, well, I'm just not gonna say I love you. And he's like, no, I don't care about you saying that. I want you to show me a real response to what I'm saying to you. I want you to tell me that you do have feelings, that there are things going on there, that this isn't just like I'm around to be around because you like me better than at least like the other 28 guys that were there, but you're ultimately gonna send me home.
Yeah, and I think the biggest feeling that people had was that from Greg, they felt like that was gaslighting. But just kind of, I am going to have to rewatch this to kind of get a good, to kind of relive that in the moment. But all I remember is him saying, it's like, why do you feel that way? Why do you feel that way? Why? And he just repeatedly gets a, I'm sorry, and nothing to follow it. And
yeah, like she's not.
I really wanted her to just express herself.
Yeah,
like I feel like she was still holding back.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm trying to say here. Is that I think that she was giving the surface level responses that are like direct answers to what he is asking, but she's not hearing, as Greg was saying, like the deeper call out to like, I want you to be able to like actually open up and communicate with me here fully, not just give me that surface level stuff. We've been deeper than this already, so why are you giving me less now? It's confusing, it's scary. Does this mean that you're pulling away?
The whole time I watched that, I just thought to myself, Katie, I want you to just lay things out on the table. Like, please give him something. Like, and just stop apologizing, because I don't know that you even have anything to apologize for. Like, you keep saying, I'm sorry. I don't know that you did anything wrong. I just want you to communicate.
Sorry, that's your reflex response, but it's not.
It's hard.
You don't know what you're saying it for. You're just saying it.
Yeah, I felt like in that moment, she really wanted Greg to stay and did not want to lose him, and just did not know how to articulate the words to do it. And I also felt like Greg did not, like, after a certain point during that conversation, he had his mind made up and was not receptive to listening to her. But, man, it's a complicated situation.
We'll get into it a little bit more.
Okay, go ahead.
I think that Greg went in there actually, like, still with an open mind, but, like...
I don't think it lasted long.
Hoping to get that genuine response out of Katie. And I think what he wanted, ultimately, was Katie to say, yes, I want you here. Not just, like, yeah, you're on to next week. Like, I want you around.
I know. I felt the same. I really just wanted a moment between the two of them that was just like I I really wanted her to say I love you back to him. Like, I don't know if she felt that or not. Like, I don't want her to say anything that's disingenuous, because that's the
Sure.
last thing that I don't want. But it's just like, in my heart,
But
I felt
I
it,
think
and I
she does
wanted to
love
hear
him,
it.
though.
I know I do too. That's like, it's like,
I think she loves him,
please.
and that's what, just like, yeah, I think she needs to just say, fuck it with
I
this rule that I made for
for
myself.
myself.
I'm
I
going
know.
to tell you exactly how I feel.
Oh, it was just, and that is really what my hang up was too, Josh, where it's like, I can see she's in pain and she's suffering through this conversation, and it just feels like she
She
didn't
can't find
say
a way to express like what it is and still like try to stick to what she set for herself.
yeah, and
And part of me thinks that maybe some of that is through her upbringing. Like in the preview for the next episode, they show Katie talking to her mom,
mhm.
and she's like, we need to be women that don't need men. And I feel like Katie has this very like strong independent spirit, which I mean you could see anyway.
Yeah,
Where she's like, okay, if I make this rule, I'm gonna stick to it, because that's the kind of like self-discipline I have. I respect myself. I'm not gonna give in to like this emotional thing when like I've set these rules calmly and
I
logically
just,
before.
from, I guess, a purely selfish perspective, then
And
I
totally
wanted
get that, 'cause
I wanted her
that's
to
how
give in to, I just like,
yeah,
I just don't see there's any way that she sees a relationship long term with Blake or Justin at this point. Seeing the connection she has with Greg, and just watching that conversation just kind of destroyed me a little bit on the inside. And
yeah. I don't think this kind of conversation is like any sort of possibility for the other two guys there. Like this would only happen with Greg, where they are both getting
yep, I think
like
that's
actually
true.
emotional and hurt.
So
another comment I had on the situation, I don't know if this caught you at all, but it caught my ears. And Katie was saying, we've had all this great chemistry up to here. You've been number one all the way.
mhm,
Last night was just one moment.
mhm,
And Greg doesn't do a great job of refuting that, but he's like, well, it meant a lot to me there anyway, because like well, yes, it is one moment, but that was like the pinnacle of their relationship.
yeah.
Too.
I
So-
still feel like Greg closed his mind off into the conversation too soon. Like,
Yeah,
I think
we got
I
a
think
little.
we hit the climax, and then like a lot of things that could have maybe mended it or made it like work out in a different way. I think it was just because he was just not receptive to it after a certain point.
I think the open-mindedness he had went away as soon as he went in, and Katie was giving him basically more of the same of what he got
Yeah.
the night before. So he's like, okay, it doesn't really matter what I'm gonna say here, because she's just gonna give me these straight answers back and not do what I was asking for last night, not do it here when like
It really
I'm
matters.
literally like putting this at the end. Like if I can't get this, it's just not gonna work. Like I can't expose myself in that kind of way and then have you leave me out to dry.
Yeah, it's so hard. I just
So-
I don't know. Like it's like I just wanted the two of them to be happy, and it really like, because like you said too, it's like if this was a conversation with Blake or Justin, I think it's just like, I'm sorry that we're not there yet, and it's a breakup conversation that doesn't seem
Right.
like, that doesn't end with her crying in the bathroom, distraught
Yeah.
about everything that happened.
So I have to say I was super one-sided on Team Greg, basically
I don't know that I was that one-sided, but yeah.
up until the point where basically Greg leaves and says, I'm just out of here. I can't handle this. Katie goes running after him. And then I felt like we got a moment of like genuine emotion from Katie at that point. I feel like she's actually bearing how she feels more so. Maybe still a little gated by her like ideas about how she's going to act prior to all this happening. But I felt like she came in with like real emotion, real responses to him, and he wasn't open to it anymore. Like he was ready to leave regardless of what she was going to do there.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like he closed his mind off earlier than that even, but yeah. And that's kind of my critique too, is that, like, I don't know that there's a side that I'm going to take here or not. I totally see both perspectives of this, and I just really wish it would have played out differently. Like, I really feel like there was just a problem on both of their ends with communicating how they felt in the moment, and it caused so much damage that just, I feel like, I don't know if I feel like, but I wish could have been avoided. And it was hard to watch.
Yeah, it was really difficult, and at the end there, yeah, I just, I was thinking that it may not have been exactly what Greg wanted to hear there at the end, but I think it was the idea and the sentiment that if he had gotten that earlier, they would have been fine.
Yeah.
And it just, he'd made up his decision. He'd been closed off. I think a lot of that is like, it's hard to handle so much in succession, like quick turnaround, not really that much time to kind of like reflect or talk to anybody else about it. They just they had it all thrust on them at once.
And that's true
I think
too.
He needed
it's like
time to cool off after, but it wasn't there. So I mean, she had to make her play then.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that too. It's like, for all of them, it's like, who do you confide in, right? Like, you see Greg talking to Blake before this conversation even happens, and I don't know what their relationship is like, but it's certainly complicated by the fact that they're dating the same woman. And
yeah, I mean, you're going to hold your cards pretty close to your chest still, even with somebody that you're going to consider more of a friend.
And you get some of these like raw emotional confessions because of that, because who else do you confide in, right? Like, you don't have this woman you're in love with around to talk to all the time, and then you're around people that you're friends with, but you're competing with, and it's a complicated situation there, right? And I think that to a certain extent that Greg did not have a healthy way to cope with the stress of everything. Right. And maybe it sounds like the people he was closest with are now gone, right? So like, he's probably feeling a bit more isolated. I mean, I think I would if I was in that position.
Well,
and then after not getting that affirmation
to his family, so I think that he'd love to like go back and talk to them. And I think they would help like calm him down and help see things from Katie's perspective more there.
Yeah,
at the end too, and
not getting the affirmation that he needed was probably I think it just broke him.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and I mean, the rest of the episode is Katie crying in the bathroom, and it ends with her saying, let's see, I wrote it down, "I want someone to book my flight home." So, I don't know if she's calling in the towel. Josh, is there gonna be...
We've got a 3-hour finale next week.
Well, damn it. We may need to film this on a Wednesday then instead of a Tuesday. However, yeah. How does this end? That's my question to you. How does this all end?
I had the same question for you. I wrote down, is this set up to get back together with Greg? Because it, with the preview that they showed, well, I guess a little bit with the previews, yeah, it seems like Justin and Blake are kind of sitting there in shock. Like Tasha and Caitlin come up to him and just like, sorry, Katie's out. And I don't know if you saw like the credit scene that they ran.
Mm-hmm.
Usually they got the blooper reel. They did a whole build up of
it was all Greg moments
and Katie's relationship, and I'm just like, are you serious?
Oh, as if I hadn't
Like,
been kicked in the
this
balls
is
enough.
heartbreaking to watch.
Oh, I know. As if I hadn't like literally been crushed enough by watching that. I now have to watch all these happy moments that they lived together through.
To me, it feels
Oh,
like
it felt
they're
so bad.
putting that up as a prelude for them to reconnect. But
I don't know.
Who knows?
That was.
I think after Greg has some time to calm down, communicate with other people, like have that coping you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think he'll have more regret about his decision. I think it was a very much like in the moment thing. He was not doing great mentally, and just like I can't handle this right now. Like there's so much stress. I don't. He said I don't want to get down on a knee more than once.
Yeah. No, I get
like,
that too. But I think that so. When at the Men Tell All, when Michael A is talking to Katie and he was like, yeah, I would be there for you if you wanted, and she was like, I have moved on with somebody else, that this has...
She didn't say that directly. She just said that she doesn't have any regrets about where she is now.
I think that it's implied that she's in a relationship right now with somebody.
I agree. I do think that is implied.
Yeah, but with who? Now I don't know. So, I still think... I mean, I think it's got to be Greg. There's no way she's...
Yeah,
there's no way she ends up with Blake or Justin.
Blake at this point.
After that conversation and the way that played out, like, I don't know how Justin and Blake are the quote-unquote one at this point.
Yeah, their conversation was too real to, like, really be something that could be replicated with either of them, I think. And I think Katie is, if she wasn't completely aware of it before, I think she is now. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think she's asking to, like, go home if she's like, oh, well, damn, he was my number one.
Yeah, I know.
But like, I'd be happy with one of these other guys. And,
I don't know if people watch their seasons after to get... I mean, I guess it depends on, like, what time you leave at and, like, how strong that relationship was. But, like, I don't know if I was, like, Blake or Justin that I would want to watch that either. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it would definitely feel shitty to watch and just be like, wow, I thought I was at this point, but really I was like down the mountain.
Yep. So, but yeah.
And yeah, especially if like they did end up together, like that would be really awkward to watch.
Oh, I know. That's what I'm saying too. It's like, well, do you watch the season if you're like Blake and you end up being the winner or something like that? Because it's not going to be Justin. I think I can confidently say that. But
I mean, we've been saying Justin's been gone for a few weeks now, and
I'm certain it's got to happen this time. So, but yeah, and that's kind of all that I have to offer for this episode. And I think that it's like, how does this all end is the question on everybody's mind. And I think my hot take is that she ends up with Greg still. So, Josh, what do you think?
No, I mean, I've basically said as much. I think they're gonna find a way to, like, yeah, maybe Katie also goes home, and like Greg, after having that time, is gonna feel the remorse, and they're gonna get him that ticket out to Seattle or whatever, and they'll go and talk, and then he'll meet with the ring dude and whatever.
Yeah, and so
I think Katie will want to go back and talk to Blake and Justin, though. I don't know that she's like the kind of person that would just...
It's Colton 2.0.
Be fine with just leaving them.
remember when Cassie leaves and he decides that he's in love with her and dumps Tasia and Hannah G
Yep.
at the final 3. So yeah, I think it's a repeat of that. But yeah, I mean, and that's kind of what, like, I'm interested. So if you're watching the YouTube after this, tell me how you think it's going to end. I would like to hear some opinions from anybody that's willing to watch this. But yeah, and it's confusing. Let's see how it ends. Next week, 3-hour finale. I'm ready for it. But
It's going to be a banger.
yeah, Josh, do you have any closing remarks before I close out this episode?
Oh man, just that it's been a journey, and I can safely say, I don't feel the same way about Katie that I did at the very beginning. But with that being said, I also had a dream that I was on The Bachelorette last night, and I made it through a little bit, and then I was just given a one-on-one, and that's when I woke up. So, Katie, if you watch this video and you somehow are still single, I'm just saying.
He's the guy over here. Well, Josh, I respect your ability to try to shoot your shot. I'm going to sign off from here. This was a good episode and a good talk today. As always, I'm the Han Factor. Like, comment, and subscribe if you want more content like this. I was joined by Tasty Kebab, Josh, today. Josh, thank you for coming again, as always.
Yeah, glad to be here. Hope we got you through some of this. I know.
It was
on the heartstrings.
But yeah, I'm going to be rebuilding myself emotionally over the next week before I have to watch this finale. I'm going to say bye to you folks now. So thank you for coming by. Like I said, follow, subscribe if you can. But this was fun. I'm going to say bye now. So bye, everybody.